On this episode of Arts Weekly, I'm speaking with Chris Rakowski from the IPFW Department of Music and Mitch Gallagher, Editorial Director at Sweetwater Sound.
Just so many apps that have come out for the iPad that are actually very, very musical.
As well as Daniel Roining and Tom Remenschneider from the Bach Collegium.
We use period instruments, and we're the only choral organization in Northeast Indiana that does that. Mm-hmm. So it's our niche in the arts community and what we have to offer.
This is Arts Weekly.
Arts Weekly is a production of the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design. IPFW, the energy of arts.
Hello, this is Chuck O'Connor, and you're watching Arts Weekly. Joining me is Chris Rakowski from the IPFW Department of Music and Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater Sound, and they're here to talk about the music technology program at IPFW and Mitch's latest book release. Guys, good to see you on the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You know, music technology is a field that's changing rapidly, and we're so fortunate to have Sweetwater Sound here, who's obviously one of the leaders in the nation in that whole field. But Chris, tell us a little bit about the different aspects of music technology that our audience might be interested in hearing about.
Sure. Well, we just have a real wide variety, and as you imply, it keeps getting bigger all the time. We do audio recording. We do what's called sequencing, which is a computer essentially programmed to play certain notes and simulate an orchestra or whatever you want. We do live sound reinforcement. We do analog synthesis and sampling. And our latest push is into video. Mm-hmm. So we have our recording studios students now shooting 2-camera HD shoots and editing it as well. And we have one student, actually our first graduate, is going to be doing a film score for his final project.
Wow, and all these are wrapped into the IPFW Sweetwater Music Technology program.
Right.
How important is it, in your opinion, to have a company like Sweetwater here in town, and how influential is that, or I guess, to the program in general?
Yes, yeah. You know, it's so incredibly important. It gives us an incredible access to just about everything that we want. I mean, of course, Sweetwater, and Mitch, you can kind of clarify this, but I believe it's number 3 in the world, retailer in the world.
In the nation, yes.
In the nation, but I think also in the world. Maybe number 4.
Could be, yeah.
They're big. They got a very big building.
Huge,
lots of cool stuff.
Huge, and
yes.
So, what is it, about 400 employees?
Over 425 at this point.
Right, okay.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, and just the fact that we could have people like Mitch here and Daniel Fisher, who's another another person from Sweetwater, and Dave Stewart, and many more coming and teaching our students a different aspect. I don't think that very many schools, or very many regions, I should say, we're not the only school. I mean, St. Francis also has one too. You know, have that opportunity to have those kind of professionals. But Mitch, question for you. Now, you're the editorial director there at Sweetwater. And what do you teach here at IPFW?
I teach the advanced recording classes. So I teach audio recording 2 and audio recording 3, where we really get into the nuts and bolts of how you make great recordings. So from the ground up, the guys are miking the instruments, they're doing the editing, they're doing the mix downs and creating the final CDs. And then I also teach the business of music. So we have a class that goes into the history of the music business and also how the music business works, royalties and dealing with agents and concerts and writers and all of those kind of things that are part of being a performer in the world today, no matter what style of music you're working in.
Yeah, how to make money doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. How to have a career.
Yeah.
And how to understand all of those different aspects, because it is very complex and it's changing very, very rapidly.
What is your background? What's your musical training?
Well, I started out a teenager, a very small town, Jamestown, North Dakota, and picked up guitar. And at that time I was self-taught. I played electric guitar, and I ended up playing all over the Midwest in country bands and rock bands and jazz bands, all kinds of things, and went back to school and got a degree in music. So I have a Bachelor of Arts in Music with classical guitar as my main instrument.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then I went on to graduate school in Kansas City and studied classical guitar and composition there. And so that's really the training I have. Since then, I still take lessons on classical guitar. I study with Jason Vio up in Cleveland.
We just heard him a few weeks ago at the Philharmonic. Yeah.
Wonderful player. Yeah, I haven't been up there in a while. And then I also studied with Dennis Azabajic in Chicago as another virtuoso. So
you have classical training?
Yes, I do.
You're a rock guitarist, because I saw you perform a few weeks ago, and you are a rock guitarist.
We play rock and roll, yeah.
Yeah, and but you know, how important is it to, I guess, aspiring rock guitarists out there? What could you tell them about musical training and going to college, I guess?
You know, you can, in my opinion, it depends on what you want to do. If your sole thrust is to be you're going to be a rock star, you know, best of luck with that, because that certainly takes dedication. But if you want to have a career in music, the more you know, the better equipped you're going to be to take any opportunity that came along. And that's always been my approach. You know, if an opportunity came up to play with a big band, then I would study the chords until I could do the rhythm parts with a big band. If it was with a country band, I sat down and studied the records, and with classical and all those things. And I've always felt the more that you educate yourself, the more you know, the better prepared you are to take any opportunity that comes along, which always leads to the next thing.
Yeah, and that's where the training comes in.
Exactly.
You know, learning about how to read music and all different kinds of guitar, because it helps you learn quicker, I bet.
Right.
When it says, you got to play jazz now.
Right.
You know, and you kind of, you know, when I heard you play the other night at Sweetwater, I think your mom was in the audience.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And you know, my mom would never let me play that loud. How did you get your mom to let you play that loud? Because you guys were really loud.
We were pretty loud, yeah. Growing up, there were certainly struggles. But I was in the basement with the
basement light on.
you know, actually, it was pounding on the floor, stomping on the floor.
Keep it down. The neighbors are complaining.
Work. It has to be the lights.
Right.
Well, how come we're all sitting here with iPads today? What's Chris? What's the meaning of the iPads to music technology right now?
Well, it's one of those things that, you know, we were talking about how fast things are moving. I mean, it's very, very new, this stuff, you know. And of course, we're part of the mobile EDU iPad cohort here at IPFW. So that actually was the impetus for me to start working with the iPad. And gosh, where to start? There's just so many apps that have come out for the iPad that are actually very, very musical. And we were talking about how we were playing jazz at the Chancellor's reception yesterday, and the guitarist was actually plugging in his guitar into the iPad and using it as an amp modeling software, as opposed to like freestanding hardware. And it's all right there.
It's an amplifier.
Well, it's an amp modeler. Okay, so it changes the tone, gives you distortion, delay, this kind of thing. You know.
Gives you the sound of the amplifier, though. It recreates all of that gear that you used to have that was separate, right in this one little portable piece.
God.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much the way the guitar amps are these days. I mean, some of them have no sound at all, like you were talking about, like the Line 6 and this kind of thing. And then you have amp modelers that they can change it into a Marshall stack and
where they're actually digitally creating the sound, as opposed to, you know, old-fashioned amplifiers had tubes in them like old TV sets did, correct?
Absolutely.
And so this digitally recreates it.
Exactly.
You know, I always remember, like, you know, the 70s, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they had these things called Moog synthesizers, which were like these magical computer things. You had to be really, really smart. But now they're in an iPad,
it's
correct?
right here.
Yeah.
This is the Animoog.
This is the Animoog. Maybe we can zoom in on that a little bit.
Right.
You can see that this is actually a synthesizer on the iPad. And how does this fundamentally work?
Actually, I think I got to turn it up here. There we go.
Yeah.
So it's got this really cool use of the visual screen that you don't have on a Moog.
Yeah.
So they actually recreated the Moog for the iPad using the screen as a primary input device or a monitoring device. And we can get into what it actually is. I mean, it's actually a wavetable synthesizer, which has you can put 7 different waves on it, and then it kind of goes through.
And so our students are actually creating music, or going to be creating music on this.
They will, yes.
And you're going to be having a concert, an iPad concert, where it's just iPads or...
We're going to have a multimedia concert.
I see.
We're going to have just about everything in the kitchen sink. So it'll be, we've got a guitar synthesizer, we've got a theremin, you know, this kind of thing. We use
doing.
Right. The Day the Earth Stood Still kind of thing, woo, kind of thing, you know. But it'll shoot out MIDI, so now we can use it to control other synthesizers. We have samplers. We're going to be using a program called Ableton Live, which is basically a live digital audio workstation. You can kind of punch in different scenes and record on the spot. And we're going to have live video. So we're going to be working with the visual arts department with Andres
So
Montaner.
we're working on that for the spring.
For the spring.
Well,
Yeah.
Mitch, in your opinion, obviously, all this stuff is having a great effect on music. How
sure
is
is.
that in your field?
You know, it's really changed things because when I was coming up, you had to have a huge mixing console and analog tape, and it was very expensive, and you really only could do it in a professional setting. There was no such thing as a home studio. Now you can actually, with an iPad, you can have a drum machine, you can have an actual audio recorder in your iPad or your laptop or your home computer, a PC, whatever it might be. So it's really democratized music production, if you will.
Anybody can make an album
Anybody
now.
can do it. Anybody can do it, which is both a good and a bad thing because there's no filter anymore.
Right.
So you have to find the things that are good. But the opportunity for everyone to have that same access to those tools at an affordable price and in an easy to learn fashion and easy to use fashion is really incredible for the amount of music that's being made.
It's changing. I think it's changing music quite rapidly.
If I can just pick up one quick thing about and how this relates to our program. Our program is a music major program. So the filter is the kids get grounded in traditional music making. And that really goes a long way to get away from knob twiddling and to making music with this stuff. So we have a lot of guitarists who are, every one of them is a rock and roll guitarist who's playing classical guitar. So they're rooted in traditional music making, and that's the filter. That works very well.
They need to be musicians first, and then the technology also. The technology is not the first thing.
And you work with the software of this and this.
Exactly.
And that
That's
helps.
a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Mitch, you have a new book out, your 7th book. And by the way, Mitch would be too modest to say this himself, but you're actually an Emmy Award winner.
Grammy.
Grammy Award, Grammy Award winner, and right over here in Fort Wayne. But you also are also the author of 7 books, and your 7th book just came out, Guitar Tone.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about this book.
Well, I've been a guitar player for since I was 15, so 30 or so years. More than that. I shouldn't say that, should I? For many, many years.
That's all right. Who's counting?
Most of my books have been about music technology, about recording software. I did one on the studio business side of things, did one on acoustics, but I really wanted to get back to my love of guitar and how to make great sounds. And I hear so many players struggling with all the technology that's available. What kind of guitar should I get? I get these questions. What kind of amp? What kind of effects should I be using to get these sounds? And so I spent about 2 years and researched all the components of the guitar, from the wood to the hardware to the tubes and the amplifiers to the circuits and the vintage things and the new things and the boutique things.
And all the pedals and switches.
Exactly, and put all that together into this book. And then also have a section in there on how to get the sounds of some famous guitar players. So Eddie Van Halen and Larry Carlton and Brad Paisley and Jimi Hendrix and Jeff Beck and all of these kind of famous guys who people like to emulate their sounds. It's a good launching pad for finding your own sound, is to emulate someone you like. So the book goes into a lot of detail on that, but it was really kind of a labor of love, and after 2 years it came out just last Tuesday.
And that's called Guitar Tone, The Ultimate Sound.
Pursuing the Ultimate Guitar Sound, right.
And how does one find that book?
It's available at Sweetwater. So yeah, you can contact us at sweetwater.com, and we have copies there, and it's available other places as well, all the usual book outlets.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I heard you premiere, I heard you give a demonstration on it at Sweetwater. It's a fantastic book. Chris, before we go, though, we got to announce that we have an upcoming concert here at IPFW, composition students.
Yes.
A lot of them are music technology students.
Yes.
Tell us briefly about that.
Yeah. Well, we have our semesterly, whatever word that we use here, composition. We have actually 3 people who teach composition now at IPFW, and it's just basically traditional classical composition, contemporary classical composition. We have actually some big 3-movement works and this kind of stuff that I'm very proud of.
And that's coming up shortly, right?
I believe it's December 1st.
December 1st at
7:30
here at IPFW. Well, guys, that's all the time we had. Too bad we couldn't play on our iPads more, but they're really cool things.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're in the band in
yes,
our April concert.
I get to be in the band. Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay. For more information about the IPFW Department of Music and the IPFW Sweetwater Music Technology Program, please visit ipfw.edu/VPA or call the Schlatzline box office at 481-6555 for tickets. And for more information about Mitch Gallagher and how to buy any of his books, you can go to mitchgallagher.com or sweetwater.com. Arts Weekly will return in a moment.